What's up, YouTube family? It is I, Amanda Brown. Ooh, look at that shiny forehead. Okay, so this video is real impromptu because I'm sitting here in front of this plethora of vegetables that I just bought myself because I'm about to embark on another fast with two of my girlfriends, two of my closest friends, near and dear to my heart. We're doing the J-Lo fast, which is basically no carbs, no sugar, just only meat and vegetables. And that prompted me to want to talk about my food journey, which many of you may or may not have been on with me or traveled along with me. So if you go back a few videos, quite a few videos, maybe a couple years ago, you'll see that I lost over 50 pounds. I talk about in that video how I did it, how the Lord empowered me to do it, and just give some advice on what you guys can do to lose some weight. After that, I also did a video about how I transitioned over to a more vegan lifestyle. So since then, I have had another baby, and just on the road that I'm traveling on with God, have decided to add meat back into my diet. Now, this was a long time ago, but it took me a while to kind of understand what God was doing in my life before I could speak about it, because I did add meat back into my diet, and actually most of the non-vegan things back into my diet. Possibly, it's been a while since I've been eating regularly again. I mean, I was pregnant. Throughout my entire pregnancy, I ate normally. But I wanted to explain to you guys what the process was for me, and hopefully you guys can gain a little insight about spirituality and just the process. So where can I start? So basically, this video is going to be why, after almost 2 years of eating a vegan lifestyle, I decided to add meat and dairy and everything back into my diet. So originally, when I went vegan, and I talk about this a little bit in the video, everything that I do, at least I try to live this type of lifestyle, I do it because the Lord empowers me or encourages me to do so. Whether it be a complete lifestyle change or it's something that he just wants to speak to me during that season, and he needs me to rid some things out of my life in order for me to hear him more clearly. Whatever the case may be, I tend to do things because I got something from God that told me I need this to happen in this season right now. I need you to go along this path. That was the same thing with me going vegan. So prior to me being saved, which was just a few years ago, maybe 3-4 years ago, I mean, I could, if I really sat here and think, I could document the day. I could give you the date. But, you know, like I said, I just turned the camera on and started talking. So prior to being saved, my mind, and this is for anybody who is unsaved, who does not know Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior, my mind was all over the place. I could believe anything and I could discredit anything based on somebody telling me something or just based on my feelings. If I felt like I wanted to believe something, if something sounded good to me, then that was truth to me. If I was afraid of something and felt like, no, I can't do that or I can't pursue that, then that was truth to me. Whatever it is that I felt within my mind, my spirit, my soul, whatever it was, prior to knowing God and being cleansed, I would just do that. I would go along that path. After getting saved, I had the knowledge of Christ. I now knew that there was this God who was alive who could save me from condemnation and hell, but there was a journey and a process that I needed to go on, that I'm still on, that everybody is still on, obviously, if you're still living here on this earth, that would bring me closer to God. You know, the church says, more of him, less of me, right? So originally, when I first got saved, I wanted to rid myself of everything. Like, I wanted to be taken up on a chariot. Like, who was that? Elisha? One of them got just zapped up in a chariot and just got to be with Jesus in glory. That's how I was. I didn't want to deal with nobody. I didn't want to hear what nobody had to say. I didn't want to eat no food. I didn't want to do nothing. I wanted to be in the spirit all day long, every day, and better not nobody bother me. Not my kids, not my husband, not my mother, nobody. If I'm with Jesus, then that's just the end of it. Don't talk to me. That was my attitude in the beginning. And it was great for me because I felt like I was in a great place. But everybody else around me was suffering. Those who knew Christ and those who didn't. I was Bible thumping around with knowledge that hadn't even been given to me yet. But I was reading my Bible nonstop, and whatever was being fed to me, I was just spewing out at any time. It didn't matter. During this time, I was also eating mostly fruits and vegetables. I was cleansing myself, or what I would call detoxing myself, of all of the negativity that had been built up for years and years and years. But there was a process of cleansing that needed to be done, that was done, and then there was a process of building up that also needs to be done for a Christian. See, when a Christian meets Christ, now they understand that I no longer have to live the life that I used to live. I don't have to live according to what I feel. I don't have to live according to what the perceptions that people have of me. Now I can live according to Jesus Christ, according to how God sees me, according to how the Father sees me. But there's so many details of spirituality and just the Bible and the Trinity and everything that comes into play that a person who had no knowledge of any of this before needs to learn and walk with in order for them to be strong enough to withstand everything that's going to come up against you for your entire life after you become saved. I was not prepared for that. So what God had me do was to cleanse myself of any negativity that was in my own mind, was in my own spirit, was in my own soul. This was a process that obviously continues for your entire life, but the beginning process for me was so difficult. I mean, I went through periods of panic attacks, periods of suicidal thoughts, periods of just times when I would just storm out of my house because I couldn't understand what was going on in my mind, and I just needed to get away from everybody and clear out my mind. And during this time, I was vegan. So it wasn't the meat that was causing me to have all of this. It was the spiritual interaction that was happening within me. The fight between the enemy and Jesus, which Christ has already won in the atmosphere, but within me was still this was happening. So once I got pregnant and I began to come closer to God in a way that was for me, not in a way that other people had taught me. And this is why it's so important for us as Christians to not judge other people for the decisions that they make and how they decide to work out their salvation. Because for me, I needed to go vegan to rid myself of all the negative thoughts, and also so that I could recognize when a negative thought was coming at me. Because before, like I said, I would hear something negative about myself, about somebody else, and I would believe that as truth. Oh, you can't, especially if it manifested in my life. You can't finish college. You can't, you're just not that type of person. You can't, whatever, I can't even think of things right now because my mind is so far away from the negative thoughts of doubt and insecurity, just in a lot of areas that I would have to think to think of something negative. But you know what I'm talking about. When those people have perceptions of you or you have perceptions of yourself, I needed to fast for that period of time to hear the voice of God tell me and so that I could believe him. Now, after this happened, now there's a period of time where, okay, I no longer believe that I am the person who I used to be, but who am I? Now you have to learn who God is. Now you have to learn what his character is like, who represents him when they're coming before you, who is living in his light and who is not, who is living in darkness. So this was a whole nother process that is still happening, that the journey had to manifest itself in my life in order for me to connect my spirituality with my physical. Because a lot of times we'll go in the spirit, and you've heard this before, they preach it in churches, where you go into church and you rah-rah and you worship the Lord and you do everything, and you walk out the doors and you're the same exact person that you were before you got there that day. I didn't want that. I never wanted that. I've seen that my entire life. It was part of the reason why I rejected Christianity for so long, and I did not want to live that lifestyle. Once I met Christ for myself and I realized that he could cleanse your soul of past hurts, and you could live in his light and actually manifest it in your own life, that was the Christianity that I wanted to live. So when he told me, because what started to happen for me personally was the vegan lifestyle started to become more bondage. And I was so wrapped up in the thought, because I'm hearing, and don't get me wrong, I'm putting this video out there because I want people who live the same thing or who are currently living the same thing to be set free. But I'm listening to other people who I'm looking up to as Christian followers, as people who follow Christ, working out their own salvation. But because sometimes people think that the way that they worked out their salvation is the way that another person should work out their salvation, then I'm thinking, because I still have remnants of the same thought processes that I used to have, I'm thinking, okay, well, if I do what this Christian person is doing, they're really close to God, what they're doing should work for me. Because that's how the world lives. We put out, I lose 20 pounds and all of a sudden I'm an expert at, and even if I don't, even if it's not right away, even if I train and I do all of this stuff to train my mind of losing weight, now I can put out videos, I can become a trainer, I can do the things necessary to teach the next person how to lose 20 pounds. And it may or may not work, but the thing is, it may not work because that person has a different mindset. That person has a different body type. And what worked for you may not work for them. And it's even, that's such a blanket statement to say, but I'm saying that to say, I refuse to eat meat because in my mind, the spiritual aspect of what meat was connected to was evil. It was dirty. It was something that I didn't want to attach myself to. But really what the Lord was trying to get me to understand was, there is a strength that I want to build in you, that I need you to let go of this lifestyle that you have created for yourself. Yes, it worked for a season, and I needed to rid you of some things, and I needed you to understand what was clean and what was unclean spiritually. You have that understanding now. So now I need you to move on to, see, the thing is, we are called to be the light in the darkness, but so many of us want to be the light in the light. We want to be the light around all the light. We don't want to go into the darkness because we're afraid that the darkness will infiltrate us. You hear things like spirits transfer, and though I believe that there's a line of truth within that statement, you can become strong enough in your faith to be around certain arenas and around certain people and hear a lie and not believe it, and hear deception and not be so prone to follow that, because the truth is so solidified in you. But in order for you to get to that place and get to that point, you have to be willing to do some things that you don't want to do. And a lot of times the things that we don't want to do looks like the opposite of what we should be doing. What I should be doing is eating healthy. What I should be doing is following this vegan lifestyle that I told myself I was going to continue on. But what happens when God says, I need you to get a little dirty? I need you to be able to where I'm trying to take you, where I'm trying to place you, you're going to be surrounded by people who have negative thoughts about themselves, who have insecure thoughts, who have doubts about themselves. And I need you to be able to operate in that atmosphere without tagging on to how they're feeling about themselves. Instead, you're able to uplift them because you've been through and out of the process. You've eaten the meat and understood that there's not a connection to who you are as a person. You have, there's a number of things that can be used as an example. I'm using the food because food has always been such a huge just obstacle for me since before I was saved, and even after. It's probably been the hardest thing for me to get over. And you read scriptures, like I would read scriptures where Paul said you can eat anything, where I believe it's Paul told Timothy, drink some wine because you're getting sick and your stomach needs to feel better. I would do things like read scriptures that say when you're in a group of people, and I'm paraphrasing, I'll put the scriptures down here, but I'm paraphrasing because I don't know exactly where they are and I don't know exactly what they say, but I know the word is written on my heart, and these scriptures would pop up into my head whenever I would feel that fight happening within me. The scripture where it says, when you're in fellowship with people, eat what they offer to you with joy, and you won't be affected by it. So I would see all of these scriptures, and yet I would still say to myself, no, I need to stick to this lifestyle because God is faithful and I need to be faithful. Just all of these half-truths swarming through my head, taking me in a direction opposite of where God was actually trying to take me. So anyway, I get pregnant, and at this point my iron is low, and I think I talked about this in a previous video. My iron is low, and they tell me that I need to start eating meat in order to, they suggest, see, because I gave birth at a birth center. There's a lot of vegan women there. There's a lot of vegetarians there. So they suggested, they tiptoed around the idea of me eating meat because they needed my iron with it, my physical body to be raised. I'm anemic during pregnancy. During all 4 of my pregnancies, I've always been anemic. But here's the thing, and this is why, again, I say it's all about your mindset and how you operate with God in your relationship with Jesus and how he speaks to you. That is personal. That is so personal that you can go to the next person for advice, but always remember to check back with the Lord for yourself. Is this for me? Is this something that I should be doing? What does this represent in my life? As soon as I heard that my iron was low, I tuned into the voice of God. See, the word says, those who have ears to hear the Spirit, let them hear what the Spirit is saying. The Spirit is always talking, always talking. The Spirit is talking through me right now. But some things won't be truth for you, and some things will. You'll have to get back with God and say, okay, Lord, I just watched this video. What are you trying to say to me? Like, he'll speak to you in a way that you can understand, but you have to take that time to tune into him. So anyway, my iron was low. I said, okay, Lord, what are you trying to say to me? What he was actually saying was that iron sharpens iron in the spirit. Yes, I understood God on a level, but my belief in continuing to follow him, in continuing, even when it was tough decisions, even when it was things that I didn't want to do, but he was telling me to do, was low. I was still doing what I wanted to do in a lot of areas. I was still rebellious in a lot of areas. My heart was still turned against him in a lot of areas. So with my iron being low physically, spiritually, he was telling me, boo, your iron is low. You need to spend more time with me. You need to read more. And now I got to show you in the physical because you're not listening to me in the spirit. You're so focused on the food that you're eating. You're so focused on even your family. You're so focused on your purpose and what else you think I should be telling you that you can't hear that I'm telling you. If you take this step, then I can elevate you to the next step. But what I need you to do is spend more time with me. I need you to turn up your spiritual ears so that you can hear what I'm saying, even when you're out and about. Not just, there's a time where daily, I need to be in the presence of the Lord. But when I leave this house, when I leave my sanctuary, which is my bedroom, when I leave that spiritual place, I need to remember that God is still with me, so I don't go out and snap on the next person just because I left God in my bedroom. I need to remember that God is still carrying me through when I get a difficult task and I feel like I can't do it. So my mindset was not there yet. My mindset was the only time I can experience God is when I'm here in my bedroom, when I'm home, when I'm surrounded by my children. But the kingdom is everywhere. Yes, evil exists and evil is everywhere also. But do we not believe as Christians that the kingdom and God supersedes all of that? So if you have spiritual eyes, you should be able to see goodness and light anywhere you go. And I was not yet at that position or at that place. So God needed to show me myself through this iron thing. There were several steps that I went through. The meat didn't work because I was still seeing things in the physical for what they are. I was seeing from my sight and not through my faith, even though he had already spoken it to me. There was still, you know, the enemy comes to steal that seed. So God will plant the seed and the enemy will come up right up and be like, that's not what he said. You good. You don't need to eat that. You good. Your iron is, you just eat some leafy green vegetables and, you know, try to do that. See, we try to fix what is spiritual in the physical. And you'll lose weight. You'll be skinny. You'll be cute. But will your heart be right? Will your mindset be right? Will you still be able to persevere through this life, which is going to come with a whole lot of more obstacles the further we go along? Or are you still going to be weak in that area because you refuse to do more? You refuse to go past that limit. See, living in the Spirit, I had to teach myself that living in the Spirit and living following Christ and living through Jesus is not doing the same thing over and over again. It is listening to God, tuning into the voice of God and saying, okay, God needed me over here last season, but now he needs me over here. Okay, I'm going to stay here for however long God keeps me there, and I'm going to wait on him, and it might be a while and it might be a short period, but I'm listening to him so much that when it's time for me to move on, and I'm not talking about physically to the next place, I'm talking about spiritually and mentally. Sometimes it's physically, a lot of times it is, but spiritually and mentally, are you able to move on to the next thing when God tells you to? Are you still stuck in the last phase, in the last season, and you're wondering why your life isn't progressing as fast as you think it should? The thing is, God is still moving. So the world is going to progress. Life is going to progress. But are you spiritually and mentally going to progress? Or are you going to stay an infant spiritually? So with that being said, what becoming vegan, I know that I can begin to ramble a little bit, and I hope that what I'm saying makes sense to any of you. I don't care if it's one person that this speaks to. Tune into the voice of God. Tune into what God is saying. Yes, watch your preachers. Yes, listen to your worship music. But at the end of the day, however you decide to work out your salvation is between you and God. And in order for that to happen, you have to be strong enough to say, I'm going to set all of these things aside and I'm going to listen. I don't care if it takes me all day. The other day, I stood up in my room and laid down, and I have 4 kids, one which is a breastfed newborn. But because I needed something from God, I prayed and I laid up in my room for what seemed like hours. Now, of course, I have my husband here. He helps me. But those are the types of decisions that I love to keep my house clean. I love to cook dinner every single day for my kids. But that particular day, I needed something from the Lord. And he is going to be there to give it to you. So I needed to lay with him and to pray to him and to feel and to be filled up by him for whatever period of time. I'm not saying everybody needs to do that or everybody has the opportunity to do that, but I'm saying that is how I work out my salvation. The next person may do it differently, and the next person may do it differently than that. There is a foundation of truth. I'm not saying that truth is over here and over there and over there. There's only one way to the Father, and that is through Jesus Christ. But through Jesus Christ is your own personal thing between you and him. Nobody else can tell you how to access Jesus Christ but you. So well, let me not say that. You can be empowered to access Jesus Christ. Absolutely. Somebody else can tell you, you can take these steps, or you can do this, or you can do that. But eventually you'll have to learn how to tune into the voice of God yourself. You'll have to learn what works for me, what works in my time of need, things like that. So anyway, what being vegan taught me, it taught me a lot of self-control. It taught me that I am able to live through the Spirit more than I need for my flesh to live through my flesh. And that was a difficult thing for me, because for a long time I felt like I had the Spirit of God in me, but I couldn't overpower my flesh in certain areas. But being vegan, food specifically, taught me that I can overpower my flesh through the Spirit, through God's Spirit, in that area. It's easy for me to do. And coming out of that, it taught me that I can enjoy food with my family. I can enjoy food with friends and not overdo it and not overindulge, and still have a good time in fellowship. I don't need to be concerned or worried when I go to a certain place that they're not going to have something for me to eat, because I'm not bound by this idea that I can only eat a certain thing. Or the thing is, y'all, we die. We die to our flesh every single day. Every day that you wake up, I don't care if you're 5 years old, 20 years old, 80 years old, every day that you are waking up in this earthly realm, you are dying to your flesh. And it is a great thing, because one day you're going to be in glory with Jesus Christ. So however you decide to die to your flesh is up to you. If you decide to die to your flesh eating vegetables, wonderful. If you decide to die to your flesh eating chicken wings, wonderful. Whatever brings joy to your spirit. But don't judge the next person because or don't think, even past that, don't think that that's the only way that you can get to the next level. Now, if you're trying to eat healthier because you want to maintain a certain figure or whatever, that's something different. I'm not even talking about that. Please don't get in my comments telling me, God told you whatever. I did that too. I'm not saying for that purpose. I'm saying don't get stuck in a certain mindset just because you thought that's what worked for you, because God could be saying something else in this season, but you're so stuck on what he said last season that you can't hear him correctly. So take a day. If you feel like that's you and you're in that position, I suggest you take a day to, I'm not telling you to go eat some meat right now, go eat a cheeseburger. I might say that, but, oh, I wanted to mention, and this video is already 30 minutes, y'all, I'm sorry. But I wanted to mention that when I did start to eat meat, you know what God was teaching me that represented to me? It was the meat of the word, the heavier word that I rejected before because I didn't want to be around people, and I didn't want to take any correction from anybody. God was telling me, this meat that you refuse to eat in the physical is the same meat of my word that you refuse to eat in the spiritual. Woo! I gotta shout on it, y'all. I got to. Because he was telling me, you, Amanda, personally, in order for you to hear me, to eat the meat of the word, the harder things, the things that are a little harder for you, the things that you have to really like turn your flesh down to operate in, which is his spirit, I need you to eat that burger. I know you don't want to. I know you don't want to get fat. I know you don't want to get old. I know you want to be cute. I know you want all these great things for your physical, but I'm worried about your spiritual. And through the spiritual, it's telling me that you're rejecting the meat of my word. You're rejecting having to do certain things, and it's actually holding you back from your purpose. So go ahead, eat the burger. Eat the burger so I can speak to you. And guess what, y'all? Guess what I did? I ate the burger. And I feel a lot stronger spiritually. I feel a lot more in control. And I want women who are going through the same thing, who feel doubt in their mind, who don't understand why they're feeling weak, to understand that if you strengthen your spirit, you can eat anything and it won't spiritually affect you. So, and not to mention a lot of the sicknesses that we're getting come from the spirit. They don't come from the physical things that you're eating. The physical things that you're eating could be a reflection of what is in you spiritually, but that's a whole nother video and a whole nother conversation. I'm gonna end this. I hope that it wasn't too much, and I hope that it was informative or whatever you needed it to be. Guys, I am working on putting more videos out there. I know I've been going a long time. I know y'all want to see the baby and stuff. Check out my Instagram because I have put her up on my Instagram, and I'll put that down below as well. I am working on it. It's so busy in my house now with 4 kids, but I love putting these videos out there. I love pouring out what God has poured into me. It always makes me feel good, and it makes me happy when you guys say that you received something from it. So if you have, please let me know in the comments. If you haven't, please don't let me send you in the wrong direction. Everything that I say leads back to your relationship with Jesus. I'm never gonna not talk about that. So with that being said, I love you guys so much, more than I can express through an internet video. And I'll talk to you guys in my next video, which will hopefully be coming soon. So I love you. Bye.